This meeting is for top performers only, my manager smirked, shutting the conference room door. I pulled out my phone and dialed. 30 minutes later, they were all running out of that room. My name is Piper Novak, and I was standing outside a conference room door when my entire world collapsed in the most humiliating way possible. Through the glass wall, I watched my colleagues pop champagne bottles and laugh while my manager, Quentin Ashford, literally pointed at me and made a shooing motion with his hand. His exact words still burn in my memory. This meeting is for top performers only, Novak. Maybe next year you'll earn your seat at the table. The door clicked shut, and there I was watching through glass as they celebrated the $2,200,000 bonus payout for Project Phoenix. The same project I had spent 18 months of my life building, debugging, and perfecting. 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners, canceled weekend plans, all for this moment, and I wasn't even allowed inside the room. Before I tell you how I made them all pay for that moment, could you please take a few seconds to tell me in the comments if you've ever been excluded from something you helped create? Because what I'm about to share with you is the most satisfying revenge story you'll ever hear, and you need to hear every single word. Also, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click that bell icon because stories like this don't come around often. Let me take you back to where this all started because you need to understand exactly how I ended up in that hallway, watching my career crumble through a glass door. 2 years ago, I graduated from business school with a degree that cost me $80,000 and 4 years of my life. Unlike most of my classmates who immediately started hunting for six-figure positions at consulting firms, I did something that made absolutely no sense to anyone who knew me. I applied for an entry-level analyst position at Hartwell Technologies, a mid-sized software company that most people had never heard of. The salary was embarrassingly low, the work was mundane, and my friends thought I had lost my mind. But I had my reasons that nobody, not even my closest friends, knew about. See, I wasn't just Piper Novak, recent graduate looking for her first real job. I was Piper Novak Hartwell, granddaughter of Edmund Hartwell, the man who founded Hartwell Technologies 38 years ago. But here's the thing that makes this story so much more complicated. My grandfather died when I was 12 years old, and I barely knew him. My mother, Elena Hartwell, had this massive falling out with her father when I was just a baby. Something about him disapproving of her marriage to my dad who came from what my grandfather considered the wrong side of town. Mom was so angry that she legally changed our last names to Novak, which was her mother's maiden name. She wanted nothing to do with the Hartwell name or the Hartwell money. Growing up, I heard whispers about my grandfather's company, but Mom refused to talk about it. All I knew was that somewhere out there was this business empire that should have been part of my legacy, but family pride and stubbornness had cut us off from it completely. When my grandfather died, Mom inherited his shares in the company, but she immediately put everything into something called a blind trust. I was too young to understand what that meant, but basically, she locked away her inheritance until I turned 25. She said she wanted me to make my own way in the world first to earn my own success before I had access to what she called blood money. Fast forward to my final year of business school. I'm 24 years old, about to graduate, and I start getting these mysterious phone calls from a law firm called Peterson Wade Associates. Apparently, my 20th birthday was approaching, which meant the blind trust was about to mature. The lawyers explained that my mother had inherited 48% of Hartwell Technologies when my grandfather died. But here's where it gets interesting. My grandfather had also left me 20% directly in his will, bringing my total potential ownership to 68% of the company upon 68%. That meant I would own a controlling stake in a company I had never set foot inside. The lawyers kept calling, wanting to schedule meetings, wanting to discuss my options, but I had this crazy idea brewing in my head. Instead of just walking in as the owner's granddaughter and taking control, what if I actually earned my place? What if I started from the bottom, learned the business inside and out, and proved that I deserved to lead this company not because of my last name, but because of my abilities? So I applied for that entry-level position under the name Piper Novak. During the interview process, nobody connected me to the Hartwell family. Why would they? I looked like any other recent graduate desperate for work experience. I interviewed with 3 different managers, including Quentin Ashford, who would later become my direct supervisor and the man who would ultimately push me toward the most satisfying revenge of my entire. Quentin was one of those managers who seemed nice enough during interviews, but revealed his true personality once you started working for him. He was the type of person who took credit for your ideas in meetings, who gave you impossible deadlines and then acted surprised when you struggled to meet them, and who had this annoying habit of explaining things to you like you were a child even when you clearly understood the concept better than he did. My first 6 months at Hartwell Technologies were brutal. I was assigned to the data analysis team, which basically meant I spent 8 hours a day staring at spreadsheets and creating reports that nobody seemed to read. The work was mind-numbing, but I told myself it was temporary. I was learning the company from the ground up, understanding how each department operated, figuring out where the real problems were. And there were problems. So many problems. The company was profitable, but barely. Departments didn't communicate with each other. Projects took twice as long as they should have because nobody wanted to make decisions without getting approval from 5 different managers. The technology was outdated, the employees were demoralized, and the leadership seemed completely disconnected from what was actually happening on the ground level. But I also saw the potential. Hartwell Technologies had incredible talent, innovative ideas, and a client base that genuinely loved working with us. We just needed better leadership and a clear vision for the future. That's when Project Phoenix came into my life. 8 months into my time at the company, Quentin called me into his office and explained that we had landed the biggest client in company history. A healthcare network wanted us to build a custom software platform that would revolutionize how they managed patient data across their 12 hospitals. The contract was worth $2,200,000, and if we delivered successfully, it could lead to similar contracts with other healthcare networks across the country. The only problem was that our senior developers were already stretched thin with existing projects. Quentin needed someone to take on a bigger role, someone who could coordinate between departments and make sure everything stayed on track. He offered me the position, but with a catch. I would be doing senior-level work for my entry-level salary. I should have negotiated. I should have demanded a promotion, a raise, or at least some kind of official recognition. But I was thinking about the bigger picture. This was my chance to prove that I could handle major responsibility, that I could be a leader in this company. So I said yes. For the next 18 months, Project Phoenix became my entire life. I coordinated between the development team, the design team, the quality assurance team, and the client relations team. I created project timelines, managed budgets, troubleshot problems, and basically became the person everyone came to when something went wrong, and things went wrong constantly. The original timeline was completely unrealistic. The client kept changing requirements. Our senior developer quit halfway through the project, leaving us scrambling to find a replacement. There were weeks when I was working 70 hours, sleeping in the office, living on coffee, and vending machine snacks. But we were making progress slowly, painfully. But we were building something incredible. The software platform was going to be revolutionary. Exactly what the healthcare industry needed. The client was thrilled with our progress, and word was starting to spread that Hartwell Technologies was capable of handling major contracts. Throughout this entire process, Quentin was taking credit for everything. In client meetings, he would present my work as his own ideas. In company meetings, he would talk about his project and his timeline. I kept telling myself that this was normal, that entry-level employees don't get recognition for major projects, that my time would come. My 20th birthday happened right in the middle of Project Phoenix chaos. I was so buried in work that I almost forgot about the blind trust completely. The lawyers called me 3 times that week, wanting to schedule a meeting to discuss my inheritance. I kept putting them off, telling them I was too busy with work, which was true, but also, I wasn't ready to make that decision yet. The project was so close to completion. Just a few more months, and we would have delivered something that would transform the company. I wanted to see it through as Piper Novak, the hard-working analyst who had earned her place on the team. Then maybe I would reveal who I really was. But Quentin had other plans. 2 weeks before the project was scheduled to launch, he called a team meeting. Everyone who had worked on Project Phoenix was there. The developers, the designers, the quality assurance specialists, even the administrative assistants who had helped coordinate meetings. Quentin stood at the front of the room with this huge grin on his face. "I have some incredible news," he announced. "The client is so impressed with our work that they're not only paying the full contract amount, but they're also giving us a performance bonus, an additional $300,000 that will be distributed to the team based on contribution levels." Everyone started cheering and clapping. $300,000 was more money than any of us had ever seen as a bonus. Even split among the team, it would be life-changing for most of us. But then Quentin kept talking. "Now I want to be clear about how these bonuses will be distributed. This money is going to the people who really drove this project forward. The people who showed leadership and initiative. The senior team members who made the tough decisions and kept everything on track." I felt this weird sensation in my chest, like something was shifting, like I was about to fall down a very long flight of stairs. "The bonus meeting will be held tomorrow at 3 p.m. in Conference Room B. This meeting is for department heads and senior contributors only. We'll be discussing individual bonus amounts and planning our celebration dinner." After the meeting, I approached Quentin privately. "Will I be included in the bonus meeting?" I asked. I've been coordinating this project for 18 months. He looked at me with this expression that I can only describe as confused, like I had asked him something completely ridiculous. "Piper, you're an entry-level analyst," he said. "Yes. You've been helpful with coordination and administrative tasks, but the real work, the leadership decisions, the client management, that's been handled by the senior team. This bonus is for people who took on real responsibility. Real responsibility. 18 months of my life, and he was calling it administrative tasks. That night, I went home to my tiny apartment and stared at the ceiling until 3 in the morning. I thought about calling the lawyers, about revealing who I really was, about walking into that office and firing Quentin on the spot. But part of me still wanted to believe that this was all a misunderstanding, that somehow things would work out fairly. The next day, I watched through that glass door as my colleagues celebrated without me. I watched Quentin raise his champagne glass and give a speech about teamwork and dedication. I watched the woman who had been hired as a senior developer 6 months ago receive a bonus for work that I had been doing since the beginning. And that's when I realized that earning respect and recognition wasn't about working hard or proving yourself. Sometimes, it was about having the power to demand what you deserved. I walked back to my cubicle, pulled out my phone, and dialed the number for Peterson Wade Associates. "This is Piper Novak," I said when the lawyer answered. "I'm ready to discuss my inheritance." "How quickly can you prepare the ownership transfer documents?" "We can have everything ready by tomorrow morning," he replied. "But are you sure about this? Once you take control of your shares, there's no going back to anonymity." I looked toward conference room B, where my colleagues were still celebrating their bonuses for my work. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The lawyer explained the process. As majority shareholder, I would have the authority to make executive decisions without board approval. I could restructure departments, terminate projects, hire and fire management, basically reshape the entire company according to my vision. "There is one thing you should know," he added. "Your mother included a clause in the trust. If you choose to take control of your inheritance, you're required to hold your shares for at least 5 years before selling. She wanted to make sure you were committed to the family business, not just looking for a quick payout." 5 years. That was longer than I had planned, but it didn't matter. I wasn't thinking about selling anymore. I was thinking about building something better. That evening, I went home and spent hours researching corporate restructuring, executive decision-making, and shareholder rights. I read through every document the lawyers had sent me over the past year, understanding for the first time exactly how much power I was about to inherit. The next morning, I arrived at the office early and met with the lawyers in the parking lot. We signed document after document transferring 68% of Hartwell Technologies from the blind trust into my direct control. Just like that, I went from entry-level analyst to majority owner of a multi-million-dollar company. But I wasn't ready to reveal everything yet. I had one more move to make. I called an emergency all-hands meeting for 10 a.m. Everyone in the company was required to attend, from the entry-level analysts to the senior management team. The email went out under my name, Piper Novak, which confused a lot of people since I was nobody important enough to call company-wide meetings. Quentin actually tried to cancel the meeting, sending out an email saying there had been a mistake that entry-level employees couldn't call all-hands meetings. But then, he got a phone call from the company's board of directors, explaining that the meeting had been authorized by the majority shareholder and was mandatory for all employees. I've never seen someone look more confused in my entire life. At exactly 10 a.m., I walked into conference room B, the same room where I had been excluded just 2 days earlier. This time, every single employee was there, including Quentin, who kept looking around like he was trying to solve some kind of puzzle. I had asked the lawyers to wait in the hallway until I called for them. I wanted to do this myself first. The room was packed. People were sitting in chairs, leaning against walls, some even sitting on the floor. There were probably 60 employees total, and they all looked confused and slightly annoyed about being pulled away from their work for a meeting called by someone they barely knew. Quentin stood up as soon as he saw me. "Piper, I don't know what kind of joke this is, but you can't just call company meetings. This is completely inappropriate, and I'm going to have to write you up for wasting everyone's time." I walked to the front of the room and turned to face everyone. My heart was beating so fast that I could hear it in my ears, but my voice came out steady and clear. "My name is Piper Novak," I began. "But that's not my real name. My real name is Piper Novak, Hartwell." A few people in the room shifted in their seats. I could see some of them starting to make connections, their faces changing as they realized what that last name meant. For the past 2 years, I have been working here as an entry-level analyst while secretly owning the majority stake in this company. Yesterday, I officially took control of my 68 ownership, which makes me your new majority shareholder. The room went completely silent. Not just quiet, but silent in that way that only happens when everyone stops breathing at the same time. Quentin's face went through about 5 different expressions in 10 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, anger, fear, and then back to confusion. "That's impossible," he said. "Edmund Hartwell's granddaughter would be." He stopped talking as he started doing the math in his head. 25 years old. "Yes, that's me." I gestured toward the door. I have 3 lawyers in the hallway with all the documentation if anyone wants to verify this, but I assure you, everything I'm telling you is completely legal and legitimate. The senior developer, a woman named Roxanne Flint who had received a $15,000 bonus 2 days earlier, raised her hand like she was in school. So you've been here for 2 years watching us work while secretly owning the company? That's correct. I wanted to understand this business from the ground up. I wanted to learn what was working, what wasn't working, and what needed to change. And over the past 2 years, I've learned quite a lot. I pulled out a folder that I had prepared the night before. For example, I learned that Project Phoenix, which we just completed, was managed almost entirely by me for 18 months, but I was excluded from the bonus meeting because I'm supposedly just an entry-level employee who did administrative tasks. Quentin's face was getting redder by the minute. Now wait just a minute. You can't just actually. I can. As majority shareholder, I can do whatever I want, and what I want is to make some changes around here. I opened my folder and pulled out the first document. Effective immediately. I am terminating the Project Phoenix bonus structure that was announced 2 days ago. Several people gasped. Roxanne looked like someone had just told her that her house was on fire. Instead, I am redistributing those bonuses based on actual contribution to the project. The people who actually did the work will receive compensation that reflects their effort. I pulled out another document. I am also implementing a new management structure. Anyone who believes in excluding team members from recognition will no longer have teams to manage. Quentin stood up so fast that his chair fell backward. You can't do this. I've been with this company for 8 years. I have contracts. I have employment agreements. You have at-will employment just like everyone else, which means I can terminate your position at any time for any reason as long as it's not discriminatory. And excluding people from recognition based on arbitrary decisions about who deserves credit definitely qualifies as grounds for termination. I looked around the room at all the faces staring back at me. Some people looked excited. Some looked terrified. Most just looked stunned. But I'm not here to fire everyone and start over. I'm here to build something better. This company has incredible potential, but we've been held back by poor leadership and a culture that rewards politics over performance. I pulled out a third document, the one I had spent most of the night preparing. So here's what's going to happen. First, everyone who worked on Project Phoenix will receive bonuses that actually reflect their contributions. Piper Novak, the entry-level analyst who supposedly did administrative tasks, will receive the largest bonus because she coordinated the entire project for 18 months. A few people actually started clapping, which surprised me. Second, we're implementing a new performance review system based on actual results, not on how well you manage up to your supervisor. Third, we're restructuring our project management approach so that credit goes to the people who actually do the work. Quentin was standing there with his mouth open, looking like someone who had just watched his entire world collapse. And fourth, anyone who has a problem with these changes is welcome to submit their resignation. I'll be happy to provide excellent references for anyone who prefers the old way of doing things. The room stayed quiet for almost a full minute. Then, slowly, people started raising their hands with questions. What happens to our current projects? Asked someone from the design team. All current projects continue as planned, but with clearer accountability and fairer recognition. What about the management structure? Asked someone else. We'll be promoting based on merit and leadership ability, not on how long you've been here or how well you play office politics. What about salaries? Asked a voice from the back. I'll be conducting a comprehensive salary review to make sure everyone is being paid fairly for the work they actually do. Hands kept going up. People wanted to know about vacation policies, about professional development opportunities, about long-term growth plans. For the first time since I'd started working here, people seemed genuinely excited about the future of the company. But through all of this, Quentin just stood there, getting redder and redder until finally he exploded. "This is ridiculous," he shouted. "You can't just walk in here and destroy everything we've built. I don't care who your grandfather was. You're just a kid who doesn't understand how business works." The room went quiet again. Everyone turned to look at him, then back at me. I walked over to the conference table where someone had left that champagne glass from the bonus meeting. It was still sitting there with dried champagne residue in the bottom. "Quentin," I said, picking up the glass, "this represents everything that's wrong with the culture here. 2 days ago, you poured champagne to celebrate work that I did while telling me I wasn't good enough to join the celebration." I set the glass back down on the table. "The difference between you and me is that I've spent 2 years learning this business from every angle. I've done data analysis, project coordination, client relations, and quality assurance. I've worked with every department, solved problems at every level, and earned the respect of my colleagues by actually doing the work." I gestured around the room. "You've spent 8 years managing people and taking credit for their accomplishments. You think leadership means having authority over others? I think leadership means making everyone around you more successful." Quentin opened his mouth to respond, but But I wasn't finished. So here's what's going to happen. Your employment with this company is terminated, effective immediately. You'll receive 2 weeks of severance pay and a neutral reference letter. Security will escort you to clean out your desk. His face went from red to white in about 3 seconds. You can't fire me. I'll sue you. I'll take this to the labor board. You're welcome to try, but you might want to check the employee handbook first. Creating a hostile work environment, taking credit for subordinates' work, and excluding team members from recognition are all grounds for immediate termination. I pulled out my phone and dialed security. This is Piper Hartwell. I need someone to escort Quentin Ashford to his desk to collect his personal belongings, then off the premises. The use of my real last name clearly got through to him because he suddenly deflated like a balloon with a hole in it. You planned this whole thing, he said quietly. You've been planning this for 2 years. No, Quentin. I plan to earn my place here legitimately to prove myself through hard work and dedication. You're the one who decided that my contributions weren't worth recognizing. You forced me to use the power I never wanted to need. Security arrived within 5 minutes. As they escorted Quentin out of the conference room, he turned back to look at me one more time. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. After he left, I turned back to the room full of employees who were still trying to process everything that had just happened. I know this is a lot to take in, I said. And I know some of you are probably wondering if you can trust me, given that I've been keeping this secret for 2 years. A woman from the accounting department raised her hand. Why didn't you just tell us who you were from the beginning? Why go through all this? Because I wanted to earn your respect, not inherit it. I wanted to understand what it was really like to work here, what the real problems were, what needed to be fixed. If I had walked in here 2 years ago as the owner's granddaughter, everyone would have treated me differently. I would never have learned what I needed to learn. Another hand went up. What happens now? Now we build something better. We create a company culture based on fairness, recognition, and actual performance. We make this a place where people want to work, where good ideas are heard regardless of where they come from, and where everyone has the opportunity to grow and succeed. I looked around the room one more time. The choice is yours. If you want to be part of building something better, I'd love to have you on this journey. If you prefer the old way of doing things, I understand. And I'll help you find opportunities elsewhere. The meeting ended with people buzzing with excitement and confusion in equal measure. Some employees came up to me afterward to ask more detailed questions. Others just left quietly, probably needing time to process everything. Over the next few weeks, the changes I had promised started taking effect. The Project Phoenix bonuses were redistributed fairly, with the people who had actually done the work receiving the recognition they deserve. Several managers who had been ruling through fear and politics submitted their resignations. New people were promoted based on their abilities rather than their connections. The company culture started shifting almost immediately. People began collaborating more openly, sharing ideas without fear that someone else would take credit. Projects started moving faster because decisions were being made by the people who actually understood the work. 3 months later, we landed 2 more major contracts worth a combined $4 million. Both clients specifically mentioned that they chose us because of our collaborative approach and transparent communication. 6 months later, employee satisfaction scores had increased by 40% and our project completion rate had improved by 30%. But the most satisfying moment came exactly 1 year after that conference room meeting. We were celebrating the completion of our biggest project ever worth $6 million. This time, the celebration included everyone who had contributed to the success. I stood up to give a toast, holding a glass of champagne in the same conference room where I had once been excluded. A year ago, someone told me that I wasn't good enough to celebrate our successes. Today, I want to celebrate all of you because this company's success belongs to everyone who helped build it. Everyone raised their glasses, including 3 new team members who had been hired specifically because of their talent and potential, not because of their connections or their ability to play politics, to fairness, to recognition, and to building something better together. As we clinked glasses, I thought about that moment a year ago when I stood outside this room watching through glass as other people celebrated my work. I had spent 2 years trying to earn my place through dedication and hard work. In the end, I had to claim my place through power and ownership. Sometimes the only way to get the respect you deserve is to have the authority to demand it. The best part of this whole story is that Quentin never did sue me. Turns out, when you actually document someone's poor management practices and exclusionary behavior, terminating their employment becomes pretty straightforward. And here's something that might surprise you. I never intended for this to become a revenge story. I genuinely wanted to prove myself the hard way to earn recognition through merit alone. But sometimes the world forces you to use the power you have, especially when people refuse to recognize the power you've earned. I still work at Hartwell Technologies, but now I work there as myself, not as someone pretending to be less than she is. The company is thriving. Our employees are happy, And we're building something that my grandfather would be proud of. The conference room where all of this happened now has a plaque on the wall that reads, "Recognition belongs to those who earn it, not those who claim it." Every time someone new joins our team, I tell them this story. Not as a threat, but as a reminder that everyone deserves to be valued for their contributions, regardless of their title or their place in the hierarchy. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been excluded from recognition for work you did? Have you ever watched someone else take credit for your ideas, your efforts, your sleepless nights? If so, tell me about it in the comments below because I guarantee you're not alone. And if this story inspired you, if it reminded you that you have more power than you think you do, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their work matters, that their contributions deserve recognition, and that sometimes you have to stop waiting for permission to claim what's rightfully yours. Remember, you don't have to own the company to demand the respect you deserve, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Thanks for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next video.